Now, doctors warn that insurance companies could be using your data from genetic testing to reduce your cover or increase premiums. It's shocking that's even legal, and one patient's advocacy group warns it needs to be banned. Joining me now for more on that is the Director of the Centre for Cancer Research, Professor Andrew Schelling. Professor, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Let's just talk about that genetic testing. So how many people are getting this kind of testing done?
Marina, Melissa, thank you for having me on the show. We don't know exactly how many people get tested in New Zealand, but we know it's probably hundreds every week. So significant of people that have genetic disease or concerns about genetic disease that will go forward and have a genetic test done or want to have a genetic test done.
And what kinds of issues will they be picking up? I mean, these are things that could potentially be life-saving if caught early, I presume.
Absolutely. So people that think they've got a family history of cancer, or we know that there's a family history of heart disease from neurological conditions and a whole range of other things, including childhood diseases, where we know that there is a genetic test available and the advice is that they should go ahead with that genetic test, but they suddenly take a deep breath and wonder, oh my goodness, if this is going to affect my ability to get insurance either now or later in life or for my whānau further down the track, then a lot of them are deciding not to have those genetic tests done, and we don't think that's right.
Yeah, it could be hugely detrimental. One of the examples is the BRCA cancer gene, isn't it? And this is something that detects your risk for breast cancer. And famously, Angelina Jolie did this, and it prompted her to get a mastectomy. So it affects a lot of women.
Absolutely. So that's the great example. So if you knew that you were positive for that gene, then you could do lots of things to avoid ever getting cancer, such like Angelina did, have had her breasts removed and her ovaries removed before the cancer ever appeared. So if you don't have that genetic test, you won't know if you're positive or negative. So you run the risk of not having life-saving treatments that can nearly completely remove your risk of getting cancer in your lifetime.
So what you're saying is that the insurance companies, if you've had the genetic test and you've seen that you're at risk for that, will then say, well, we're not going to cover you for cancer because we know now it's a pre-existing condition, or they will raise your premiums.
Absolutely. So that's what we're seeing in New Zealand, and we're out of step with the rest of the world. Most of the other countries like New Zealand, for example, Australia, Canada, and America, they've banned the use of genetic testing in this way to affect underwriting of insurance premiums. So we're out of step, and most of us didn't know that until very recently.
Yeah. What needs to happen for this to change?
Well, we're asking for a ban on the use of genetic testing like other countries very similar to us. We don't think it's right, and it's going to affect the outcomes of many of our patients in whānau. Are
you already hearing from patients or from people that they don't want to go for this genetic testing in case it impacts their insurance premiums?
Yes, we do. We hear from patient groups, patients themselves. We hear from clinicians that have to tell patients, just remind them that, by the way, if you have this genetic test, it could affect your insurance. So there's quite an outcry that a lot of people don't think that's right. And I've set up this group that want to take the charge against insurance companies and make a change to the laws and regulations.
The insurance companies would say, well, but it clearly is now a pre-existing condition. So why should this be treated any differently?
Well, we're happy that they take into account a family history. We're just saying that the application of a genetic test is one step too far, and that people would now turn down the use of a genetic test, and that is what's going to affect their outcomes in the future.
Director of the Centre for Cancer Research, Professor Andrew Schelling, thank you very much for being with us this morning.